Welcome to Oakland Is. This show spotlights movers and shakers and image makers. We're very privileged today to deal with a topic that is about legal and financial planning for life's stages, the variety of stages that we go through in our lives. And we have Miss Mary Jane Hodges.
Yes.
And she's the president of Alameda County Points of Life team. And we have Mr. Raymond, Attorney Raymond F. Churchill, who is an estate planning attorney.
Yes.
Thank you both for being present.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. This has really been a rich day to hear about all the things that are being done in something called Points of Life. Who is Points of Life, Mrs. Hodges?
Points of Life is a collaborative group of senior professionals who work together educating the community on issues that deal with seniors and making sure they have a plan.
When and why was the organization founded?
Actually, the organization has been in existence for 2 years. Richard Wexler is the president and CEO of Points of Life. And how the program came about is that he and his wife, within a span of 3 months, had 3 parents who were seriously ill and going through different stages of life that they had no plan for. So he was dealing with his family. Both he and his wife were working. There was a lot of activities, and he had 3 critically ill seniors in his life, not having a clue where to go. So what he did was, after the chaos and the crisis in his life, he decided it was really very important that seniors, or their adult children, or family members, relatives, have an idea what to expect in the senior's life and to work with seniors to have a plan in different areas.
So that almost sounds like the next question, the answer. What is the mission of Points of Life?
It's really education, because it's so important that we all know what is out there for seniors, not only in the housing, but in the planning process. And you're going to have Ray here talk about estate planning, but besides estate planning, there's also things of home, making moves out of your home, staying in your home. It's what the tools are for the seniors and their adult children to help them age successfully.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, I'll come back to you in a few minutes, and I'd like to go to Ms. Attorney Churchill. What is estate planning?
Well, estate planning is a process. It involves people, their family, others. It could involve charitable organizations. It also involves their assets, their property, the title, the form of titles that they keep their assets in, the form of ownership, and it also addresses their future needs in case they need someone to help take care of them if they're incapable of doing it themselves.
Who needs an estate plan?
Well, a lot of people say that they don't need estate planning because they don't have enough assets, but in truth, everyone in the age of 18 or over needs some form of estate planning.
Because?
Because it's so important. It puts you in charge. You are the person who gets to decide, what happens to my assets when I die, who manages my assets while I'm alive, who can make health care and personal care decisions for me in case I'm unable to do that.
That explains why it's important, I would think, but I guess there are not a lot of people who don't want to know what happens when they are no longer around.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how often should people update their estate plan?
At least every 5 years is what I say, and then also you want to take a look at the events that are happening in your life. If you're having some changes in your family, new addition, you have a new child, or someone dies, you get divorced, or you get married, or you have changes in your assets, you have a new job, you inherited some money, or you hit the lottery, or if there's any sort of a major health change, then you want to go back and revisit your estate planning.
So revisiting sounds like it's also almost necessary.
Yes, it's critical.
We have heard about the term probate. What is it, and why do we want to avoid probate?
Well, probate is a court-supervised process where a deceased person's will is goes to court, and then their assets are distributed to the people that are named in that will. It's usually started by an executor, and the executor has to file a petition to be appointed as the executor, and then once the executor is appointed, then they take care of collecting assets, paying debts, and then after approval by the court, they distribute those assets to the beneficiaries in the will.
So why do we want to avoid probate?
Well, the first thing is that it's a court process, and there's not too many people that I know that like to go to court, and particularly you don't want to go to court if you're dealing with someone that's died in your family.
Yes.
The other reason is because it's a public process, and all of your assets are listed so people know what you own when you died, who your heirs are. It's a very public process. It's time consuming. It takes a lot of time to complete the process, and it costs money. There's a lot of fees involved in probate.
So there's no way to avoid it?
Well, there are ways to avoid probate. One of the best ways to avoid probate is to have what's called a living trust.
Is it revocable? What is a revocable?
Well, a revocable living trust is a legal document. It's also called an inter vivus trust or inter vivus trust. What it is a person takes their property, they put it in the trust while they're alive, it's managed for them, and then when they die, the assets are distributed to the beneficiaries in the trust without any court involvement at all.
So that's a tremendous help, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
My goodness, yes, very important. So let's see, who should be the trustee?
Well, the trustee of the trust, first of all, is the person who is managing the assets for the person who put the assets into the trust. Usually the trustee is the person that created the trust in the beginning. You also need in your trust, you need to have what's called a successor trustee. Now that can be either, if it's a couple, it can be the other person. It could be a child or other family member. It could be a friend. It could be a bank. But the key qualifications for a trustee is that they should be organized, they should be responsible, prudent, and honest.
That's tremendous. And let's see, Mrs. Hodges, I'll go back to you for a moment.
Thank you.
So what events and services do you offer with your work?
Well, actually, with the Points of Life, the services that we offer are presentations. We like to go to group community activities, also to fraternal orders, churches, just to expose. And the way it works is we have some small vignettes, which are little stage plays that we present, and then we have a panel discussion about what's important. As Ray would talk about the legal aspects, and other members of our committee would talk about what their specialties are. And the specialties range about, really our discussions about having a plan, because everyone's plan is a little bit different.
Sounds exciting.
It is exciting.
So these are skits?
These are skits, and they're quite fun.
Wow, that's great. So what geographic area do you serve?
Well, we serve, actually, the Points of Life started in Contra Costa County and Alameda County. At the present time, there are 7 counties with chapters of Points of Life. There's Santa Clara, San Mateo, San Francisco, Solana, and I believe Marin County. So, you know, we're based in all communities so that people have access to our services, and it's free.
Is this unique to this side of the country?
You know, it is unique to this part of the country. Richard Wexler, as I said, started it 2 years ago, and started, his plan was to do it county by county, so that people who are involved in the counties where they live. And that's really important, because you reach your clients, your friends, your family, and everyone is comfortable with dealing with someone locally.
This sounds very productive, and hopefully this will make everybody start accessing and creating others.
Well, I think one thing I'd like to point out also is that we do go to employers and do presentation, and what's really important about that is, if in our own families and friends, probably 50 to 75% of people are dealing with seniors or loved ones. And if you're an employer, you lose a lot of hours, man hours, a year with your employees taking time off to deal with senior issues. And so if you were, as an employer, were really giving your employees a chance to understand what's out there and have some avenues to call. It's important.
This should really be most helpful to families because every person who works needs some backup there when it comes to their relatives.
That's right.
Yes. So I tend to watch a program called Super Nanny, which is about...
I don't watch television, so...
She's an expert helping parents with their children because they grow up to be adults at one point, but they need to be parented. And so and then adults, when they get to be seniors and elderly, they need some additional help at that time as well.
Well, you know, that's really interesting because in the senior world, it was the sandwich generation where you had children, you know, parents, either adult children and grandchildren, but now that's a club sandwich generation. People are living longer.
Yes.
There's a chance that you'd have 4 generations you're dealing with.
That's right. So Attorney Churchill, let's see, what does estate planning, when does estate planning involve tax planning?
Well, as you recall, recently we've been talking a lot about the fiscal cliff, and so people have been really concerned about taxes. Estate taxes come into the picture when a person has assets that exceed $5 million. So that doesn't cover very many people that I deal with. But there's other taxes that do come into play, and those taxes are gift taxes, there's capital gains, and there's property taxes, which is always in the picture.
In terms of the estate planning process, what happens if a person becomes unable to care for him or herself?
Well, the best thing is if they've thought about that in advance and they've put together some sort of a plan as to who they want to take care of them and make their personal care and health care decisions. That plan should be in writing. And they should have, at a minimum, they could have a living trust, which would take care of that. They could have a durable power of attorney for property, and they could have what's called an advanced health care directive. Now, if you don't have those and you're incapable of making those kind of decisions yourself, then you could be looking at a procedure called a conservatorship, where a court has to appoint a conservator to take care of your needs.
That sounds a bit cumbersome.
That's something that you just want to avoid altogether. That's worse than a probate.
Yeah, I would think. So who should help me or anyone else with my estate planning documents?
Well, you know, you could do it yourself. You know, some people could go to a library or look at a form. I don't advise that. If you're using any kind of legal document like a will or a trust, you should have an attorney do that. And it should be a qualified attorney that understands estate planning. Now, you can use other professionals in the process, like the people that are part of our points of life. We have insurance people, we have reverse mortgage people, we have financial people. Those people are able to participate in the process of estate planning.
And some of your services are free or not? Are they free?
Some of them are free.
Some of them
provide free consultations.
I
yes.
see. And some of yours do as well.
Well, actually, since I work in the senior community, yes, you can come for a tour and a lunch and spend the night.
Well, thank you both for sharing. This is so valuable. Living in the information age, this kind of information, I think, is the one that we need the very most. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for having us.
Welcome back to Oakland Is. At this point, we're talking about long-term care and financial planning with Mr. Peter Alexander.
Yes.
And we're talking about elder mediator, conflict coach, aging in harmony. Aging in harmony. Ms. Katharina W. Dress. I'll start with Mr. Peter Alexander. What is long-term care insurance?
Well, quite simply, it's insurance protection to take care of the costs for long-term care needs that 75% of people over 65 are going to require. So for daily for daily living activities that they will no longer be able to perform. So they're going to need assistance for that. The insurance will pay for that instead of out of their own private funds.
So when should someone start a retirement plan and think about long-term care?
Retirement is really never too early to start retirement, because retirement, all it is saving money for our later years. So the earlier the better, actually. And then with long-term care, because things have changed within the products that are offered, one can now actually get like a policy that accumulates retirement, but in the same time has long-term care insurance provided with it.
So what area of care does long-term care cover? In-home, community living, board and care?
It actually can cover all of those things. Some people need to be in a skilled nursing facility, long-term care. Others can be in with in-home services or assisted living or community living, as long as the care is being approved by an accredited physician and the care is being provided by a licensed association or business.
Okay, before I go to Ms. Dress, I'll ask you one more question that says, how much does care in a skilled nursing facility typically cost in the Bay Area?
The surprising answer to that is that the Bay Area is actually the most expensive in all of California, even more expensive than Southern California and Los Angeles. And for skilled nursing, it is over $77,000 a year.
Well, I'll come back to you in a moment, but we have some very good questions to continue with you. Ms. Katharina Dress, you are an elder mediator, a conflict coach, and then you have an agency or a company called Aging in Harmony?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, what does that all represent?
Well, you've heard about all the different things we need to plan for to be prepared for the later years in life. And oftentimes, different people in the family have different opinions. What's the best way to go? Age in place, or move to a senior community, you know, buy long-term care insurance, or make some other kind of investment. And people fight about it. And families often really get torn apart about it. And so I help everybody to sit down together in a safe environment and really calm down, listen to each other deeply, understand why each family member thinks whatever they think is best is best. And once they really listen to each other and understand each other, I can usually help them find solutions that work for everyone.
So then maybe what you just said is answering this part of the question. Why would a client contact you instead of an attorney, social worker, or elder care manager?
Yes, actually instead of or in addition to. The important thing about mediation is that it's confidential and it's neutral. I'm impartial, whereas attorneys and care managers, social workers, all of them are advocates, typically for the elder or whoever pays their bill. It could be a different family member, whereas my job is to be impartial, or as I like to call it, omni-empathetic. I'm on everybody's side.
So then in terms of the value of what you provide in contrast to these others, what would you say that would be?
It's really helping people work together and get on the same page, you know. Aging is a very emotional thing. It's accompanied by lots of losses for everybody, the elder, but also the younger family members who are seeing maybe their parent fail in one way or another. So it's very emotional, and it brings out usually a lot of fears and a lot of pain, and that tends to bring out not the best in people. And so I can really help people get out of their heads, into their hearts, connect deeply, and get on the same page.
And when they get on the same page, then would they be able to take advantage of the other resources like attorneys and...
Yes, then it can help them find solutions, legal solutions, financial solutions, care solutions that really work for everybody.
That work. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm so glad that you do with the work that you do. You do something called nonviolent communication.
You remember
What
that?
is that? I want to hear more about that. What is that?
Yes, that's one of the tools in my toolkit. I'm trained in different ways to mediate, and nonviolent communication is one communication model that focuses really on empathy, what I was just talking about. It really focuses on helping people hear each other with their hearts instead of with their heads.
Wow.
And when they can do that, a lot of things get a lot easier.
Hearing with the heart. That sounds very important. Do you feel that that happens quite often? Hearing with the heart?
Yes. In fact, just last weekend, I did a mediation between two sisters who were fighting about the best way to go about care for their aging mother. And they had gotten to a point where they were not willing to talk to each other without, a neutral third party. And afterwards, they were so, caring about each other. They apologized to each other. They had tears in each other's eyes, and they resolved to talk to each other on the phone every week about their own lives and about what was going on with their mother.
You are a successful mediator and facilitator. Oh, that's so
I
so
like
important.
to think so.
Yes. It sounds as though that's one of the greatest needs that we have in the current world that we're living in.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for doing that. When I first met you, I think it was about a year or two ago, I thought it was unique just to hear the word harmony, aging in harmony. Because when you have harmony, it kind of blends in quite well. Yes. Let's see, I'll come back to you in a moment. I think I'll ask Mr. Alexander about something else here that I wanted to get back to. We have heard about Medicare. Does it cover long-term care?
Medicare covers the first 20 days of long-term care, as long as they've been hospitalized for at least 3 days in an approved facility.
Could you repeat that, please?
So Medicare provides long-term care from days 0 to 20. So for the first 20 days, as long as a person has been hospitalized for 3 days in an approved facility. And then from 21 days to 100 days, they pay for a portion of that care. And then after 100 days, Medicare does not cover any long-term care at all.
So if a person runs out of money to pay for continual long-term care, let's see, will Medicare or Medi-Cal or Medicare pay for the continual care?
Well, what would come into pay would be Medicaid, but that Medicaid will not contribute towards that until the individual's assets are reduced to $2,000. So if somebody has assets or they have cash or a house, all of that has to be used up and spent by that individual before Medicaid is going to be accessed.
So will a long-term care policy cover the cost of care that one might need outside of a skilled nursing facility?
Yes, it will. It'll cover outside of a skilled nursing facility. It'll cover in-home, assisted living, community living. Again, as long as the doctor has prescribed that, and as long as the facility or the care is provided by a licensed practitioner.
So if I were to consider buying a long-term care policy, what benefits should be of most importance to me?
Well, just like with everything, I think probably one of the most important things is going to be the cost to you, how much it would cost. And then from that, how much is going to be the benefit? Is it going to be, how much is it going to pay out per day? Is there going to be limitations to the type of facility that can be paid?
How can you help people resolve conflicts if only one party or not all parties agree to work with you?
That's a good question, because oftentimes when people first contact me, it's one family member, and they're really upset, and they're worried about that nobody else would be willing to talk to me and try mediation. I find that Oftentimes that's not the case, that even though they may not want to talk to that person, they're willing to talk to me and allow me to bring them to the table. But even if that's not the case, I offer something that's called conflict coaching, where I go through individual sessions with one family member who wants to change their way of communicating with the others, and it has a domino effect. If one person changes their communication, the whole family system changes.
One person
Yes.
can make a difference.
Yes. Just like everywhere in life,
Really?
one person can make a difference.
Oh, I see. And you're coaching and making that happen.
Yes.
I'd like to thank you both for this wonderful resource that you're providing. You're both connected with Points of Life.
Yes.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you so much. And then Aging in Harmony. This is wonderful. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Oakland is our